not only do I have a Lower Decks episode to talk about, but Star Trek's actually currently having a bit of an animated resurgence. There is a series called Short Treks that they had released while they were like between seasons in Discovery several years ago. They did 2 seasons of Short Treks, and they're all like 5-minute episodes of Star Trek to just kind of like focus in on like one character. They're like 5 to 15-minute episodes. And they did 2 seasons of those, and then it just kind of went away for a while. But I think it's the 50th anniversary of the animated series, the one from the 70s. And so they have announced a series of very short treks, which are little tiny animated episodes all done in the style of Star Trek the Animated Series, the one from the 70s that with the really crappy 70s animated style. And those are all being released on YouTube. So you can go check them out like right now. And I watched the first 2 have come out in the last week, and they're silly. I like the that kitschy animated style. They have said that they're non-canon, which they're definitely non-canon, but that's fine. I would actually it looks like they're going to be doing episodes from different franchises or different series within the franchise, because like the first episode was like a proper homage to the animated series. Like they had some of the characters from that were exclusive to the animated series. Like there was a cat member of the bridge crew in the animated series that she shows up in this one because it's set on the original Enterprise. And then the next one was explicitly a Strange New Worlds one, because they had characters from Strange New Worlds who, even though those characters also appeared in the animated series, some of them did, there are others that are exclusive to Strange New Worlds. So it looks like each episode they're going to go through a different one. So that looks like it's going to be fun. I don't have a lot to say about them because they're just very short, non-canon, comedic episodes focusing on each one, but I would recommend you check those out. One thing that annoys me, though, is that at the end of those episodes, it says you can check out Lower Decks and Star Trek the Animated Series on Paramount Plus, and I can't help but notice that those aren't the only 2 animated series of Star Trek. There is Star Trek Prodigy, which was pulled from Paramount Plus because they didn't want to pay residuals, when like a year ago they were advertising Paramount Plus as the home of all Star Trek. And now they've got a show that they don't have up on there. And I know the showrunners are still fighting to get it come back because season 2 is mostly done. They've been releasing information about it. They've been trying to either get a new home for it or to get Paramount to bring it back, and I really hope they do. But with that out of the way, with very short treks and my contractually obligated gripe about how they've treated Star Trek Prodigy, let's get into Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 3. Here we go. This episode is called In the Cradle of Vexilon. Boimler leads his first away mission on an alien megastructure. Now, this episode takes place on Halo. That's right, John Halo himself. No, it takes place on a ring world. Everyone's gonna see it and think Halo, but I remember when Halo first came out, when the original Xbox came out, I saw them like, oh, they made Ringworld into a game, because Larry Niven, he wrote a series of books about such a structure. And that one is like, I would like them to go a little bit more into the science of it, because I'm a big nerd, and they have things like, they have the Dyson Sphere in the Next Generation and stuff like that. But here it's treated as like, oh, it's an idyllic world that's where it's the rare case where a society is being run by an AI, but it's a benevolent AI, and it's apparently just breaking down because it hasn't had a software update in a couple million years. And so they're there to do a software update, but of course things bug out as they're doing the update, so a whole bunch of like weather systems start malfunctioning, and so there's just wacky cartoon hijinks as they're trying to tech support an AI for a planet, basically. But this episode is a lot about Boimler, because Boimler is now a lieutenant, junior grade. He's not an ensign, and so it's his first away mission where he's like trying to unplug some power source or like change out the. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's like he's leading a team of ensigns to do something, but he's so nervous about the ensigns doing something wrong that he ends up just taking over the whole thing, and he has to learn how to not just lead by example, but also like give direction and have faith. And it's one of your standard stories of it's your first command and you've got to learn how to actually let other people do their jobs and not just do everything for them. I'm sure you've all seen the plot before. And then the other plot involves the other three getting hazed. Even though they're no longer ensigns, they're still being hazed by some of the higher-ups to do very menial tasks. And it's a series of them like trying to get back at the officer for hazing them, and the officer knows what they're trying to do and tries to like play off like he's not hazing them and like tricks them into thinking he's like this traumatized guy who they need to help out and all this stuff. And there's some fun wackiness to it, but this episode felt like a fairly standard episode of Lower Decks. And like I said last week, a big part of Lower Decks requires knowledge of other Star Trek stuff. And like they go into a room on the Cerritos where they have a bunch of like artifacts that are being stored that do weird things, and a whole bunch of them are just references to other episodes of other series of Star Trek. Like there was this really bad episode of Deep Space Nine where a bunch of the crew got sucked into a board game, and they have one of those board games, and Rutherford gets sucked into it, and he basically has to do a speed run of the board game to get in there. And so, but like again, a lot of those references, if you see them and you've never seen Star Trek before, you're not really going to get the jokes that well. Like that whole sequence was made specifically for people who know and love that bad episode of Deep Space Nine. But if you haven't seen it, you're just going to be like, oh, that's a reference to something I don't get. So that is one of those things where, like, again, if you've never seen Star Trek before, don't start with Lower Decks. Watch a couple other series and then come into Lower Decks. But overall, I liked this episode, but that doesn't mean you would, because I know all the references and you don't.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Ryan D. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.